we're also
And we're live, streaming live from the footsteps of New York City. We are Music Matters with Jason Tramm. We're delighted you can join us for a unique podcast community where we explore the issues and challenges in the performing arts world as seen through the eyes of distinguished artists. Thank you so much for joining us. Please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information and upcoming guests and topics. Like and share our videos on social media. You can find us in all the usual places, Instagram, Facebook, and such, and Twitter. And you can join our email list at www.jasontram.net. You can also see our 105 past episodes with artists who are leading artists at the Metropolitan Opera and concerto soloists, indie rock bands, and everything in between. So I hope you can join us, and thank you for being here. We have a wonderful guest today. We have Mr. John Valashevsky, who is he's one of the principal members of the late Cambrian. So welcome, John.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's me and Olive are like the principal members, and then we have a rotating cast of musicians that help us make our music.
We saw you and Olive on the opening video, and that looked like a COVID innovation. Like that's a song you previously recorded, right?
I wrote that in April, after we got locked down. The last thing I remember doing is I went up to the Bronx to help a friend mix on like April 15th, and then pretty much that was like a Saturday, and then like the Monday, like Cuomo was like, don't do anything, don't say anything, don't leave the house.
Do not pass go, do not collect $200 for sure for musicians.
Exactly. Yeah. So then I was stuck in the house, and that song came to me, and recorded it here, right in this room on this computer. Played all the instruments, and then I had a drummer friend, Josh Margolis, who runs like a music school in Brooklyn. Played drums on it. And then I mixed it all, and there it is.
Isn't it amazing what we can do from our houses and apartments, and how artists continue to be creative, even in the height of the worst, one of the worst times? I've been talking to musicologists on the show and to people. We've never seen anything like this. I mean, maybe the Black Death. I mean, going back that far in time, but nothing like this.
I remember those days. No, I don't remember those days at all. No, you're right. It's actually it's made a lot of people have to learn how to do their own recording. Sometimes artists just have to be the artist, and I would say that COVID has made it that we all have to kind of learn how to record everything, maybe play a few instruments we didn't know how to play before, or like brush up on, like everything I've done since COVID, I've had to play the bass and the guitar, which is fun. I actually, turns out I really like playing bass.
You know what? I've got one son who's a jazz guitar player, one son who's a drummer, and
awesome.
I used to jam on the drums with them. But since my one son got better than me, I picked up the bass, and I have so much respect for the bass. What a great instrument, and the way it holds everything together and anchors the sound.
It's very it's not like a look at me instrument unless you're Les Claypool or someone specific.
Geddy Lee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
my two sons, the drummer loves Rush, and my other son likes the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! I'm starting the bass, and I got to learn. Like, I'm sitting there with all the tutorial videos, like slowing it down to quarter step.
No big deal. Just play like Flea and Geddy Lee, and you're gonna be fine. No, those are like those two bands have some great musicians in them.
They certainly do.
Yeah.
So, did you always know that you wanted to be a professional musician?
Found out I wanted to be a musician when my sister got an acoustic guitar for Christmas. I don't remember I don't know how old we were, but then she wasn't interested at all, and then she sold it to me for $20.
Good deal.
Yeah, right. It was actually a really nice guitar, and I took like 2 months of lessons, and it just stopped me from playing the guitar on my lap with my thumb. Like the first thing you do, I was like learning Iron Man from Black Sabbath with my thumb.
Find those power chords.
Yeah, and then my teacher was like, that, you don't have to do that. There's only one or two. If you want to do that, you got to learn slide guitar. But yeah, so it just kind of came to me. Before that, I wasn't really into music that way. I was just like listening to the radio, and I was like, oh, I like music and stuff. But once, I caught the bug once I got a guitar. I was like, I got to do this all the time now.
So guitar is your first instrument?
First instrument, yeah.
And what were some of your the music you listened to when you were first starting out?
My dad listened to he introduced me to the Beatles. So I heard She's Leaving Home on Sgt. Pepper, and I was like, this expands what pop music can be, because it's like so different. Like you wouldn't hear that on the radio today. It feels like Sound of Music to me, that song. It's very like theatrical and like lots of string instruments. It's got a beautiful melody line. So I was like, if pop music can make you feel this way, I think I kind of want to play it. Because a lot of pop music is just kind of like in the background when you're driving to work. And the Beatles, to me, feels a little bit more introspective. More for someone who's listening at home on headphones and like kind of getting the whole thing.
I tell my students that there's music that's meant to be immediately consumed like a Big Mac, right? And then there's music where you have to dig beneath some layers, and that's a deeper, richer experience. And the Beatles, certainly, the more you listen to it, it's like a great painting. You look at it at one angle, and it's a totally different painting. When you change the perspective, and for us, like when you change the decade, when you get older, it still stands the test of time.
It really does. There's like a few things that have lasted like as long as they've lasted. Like we still have both Beethoven and Mozart. Like there are certain classical musicians from a time period that we brought with us 300 years later, but there might have been another 1,000 musicians that we don't even know their name, that were like also writing compositions back then that didn't like break through, and however you would break through at that time. So I'm kind of hoping the Beatles will still be here, and I'm hoping we'll still be here, but in 21 something, you know, I'm assuming we're still going to be playing the Beatles at that point, but that's kind of, maybe not. I don't know, you know.
Well, you know, you look around. My son is 16. My youngest son is 16, and he wears Led Zeppelin shirts and Beatles shirts.
It's
and
amazing.
You know, and in school, when I go to school and I walk around, the kids are wearing Led Zeppelin, Beatles. I mean, all these rock shirts that's actually older than me, and I'm saying that's so interesting how that's become popular again.
I saw on Twitter like 2 days ago that Physical Graffiti by Led Zeppelin came out February 24th, 1975. So it was like the anniversary, and I think that's my overall favorite Led Zeppelin record. But you're right, they've lasted. Like that feeling that they had, and the chemistry of the band is incredible. And people overrate and underrate John Bonham. I love the way he plays, but the things I like about it is like his groove is so,
he bends time
like,
to his will.
Yeah, it's like loose and tight at the same time.
Oh, he's behind the beat. He's ahead of the beat.
That's what I mean. It's exactly what I mean.
Like a Jedi master.
It's like are you planning this out, or is that just how you play? It's really great. It's like John Bonham's. People always fight like Neil Peart, John Bonham. I'm like, John Bonham's groove is pretty on point.
I wouldn't say Neil Peart's groove. I would say Neil Peart is like a surgeon.
I was gonna say his technique is without par. But
that was my first band I saw was Rush. That was my first band, and I've seen them 3 or 4 times over the course of my life. And
really,
boy, their music holds up. Those guys are just great artists.
Once at the New Jersey. Is there like a venue that's like on a lawn in New Jersey?
Oh yeah, that's what I know exactly what that is. That's on nearby the shore. That's the PNC Bank Arts.
Yes, I saw them touring Vapor Trails there. They were like washing machines on stage with like spinning wash in it while they were playing.
They had them on the R40 tour. It was awesome. They're spinning around, and
they're really good live.
They have so much fun when they play. They really like each other. You can like see that they really enjoy themselves. That was always exciting.
They're very Canadian, meaning like they're not full of themselves in like a very like flashy kind of like this is about me kind of thing. They're like they're polite about how good they are. I love it.
So when did you start singing? Because you're such a fine singer on all your albums. Wow. There's so much vocals.
Took me forever. Like when I was first learning guitar, I was like, I'm never going to be able to sing. And then I started listening to Weezer and Jeff Buckley, and I was like, both of these singers can do stuff and hit notes that I cannot hit. I have to figure out how to do that. So I had a vocal teacher teach me about the mixed voice, where you can take the chest and the falsetto head voice and kind of like bring them to a place where you're adding the resonance of the chest to the falsetto. So I was able to figure out how to be able to just move around my voice instead of like, you know, giving myself nodules on my throat from screaming the notes out. And so now I can do it, but it's actually it's a technique too. And then once you have the technique, you kind of have to like bring it back to who you are and allow it to sound like you, so that you don't just sound like a jingle singer.
How do you find your own voice as a singer? How'd that work for you?
By not liking it. If I don't like my voice, then I know it's mine.
Okay.
I don't know how else to say it. It's just that, like, if I feel like it very specifically sounds like me, and I'm like, oh my God, it's so nasal, it's so weird, then I think that's just my voice. And then I just kind of work with that. So that's a personal thing. Don't no, anyone else out there who's listening who's a singer, don't pay attention to what I just said. It's not a good advice. But you know, like a lot of the greatest voices are very like signature. I can hear John Lennon's nose in everything he sings. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like you can
Absolutely.
really hear the nasal of his voice. That's what makes him not Paul McCartney. Like you can pick them out, you know, and but that doesn't make him a good singer. It just makes him John Lennon. So
Makes them unique.
so
Sure.
and he was very insecure about his voice. That's why he was always putting reverb on it and like changing it and trying to like alter it. You know, it's very I remember reading interviews about that. So like that thing that makes it you is maybe the thing you don't like. So it was just a thought I had.
Interesting. So, what was the first song you wrote, and what was the occasion?
Oh my God, the first song I wrote. I can't even remember. It's never been recorded. It probably rhymed fire with desire. It's probably like really terrible. Um, um, but for Lake Cambrian, it was I was in a band before Lake Cambrian called Flying Machines, and we were on EMI very very briefly. I think we're like the lowest selling band on EMI, and we got and that all fell apart. And then I had all these songs that I couldn't play with that band. I wasn't the singer. I was just the guitar player. And I didn't really like if there was an album with like 8 songs, I would have written the music for like 2. So I would like have all this music that didn't work. So when that band ended, I was ready to like start putting stuff on tape that I had written up to that. So like the first record is like all stuff that existed already. Yeah, I
How,
don't know.
and what did your first band teach you? How does that like each band like you're like I know for me as a conductor, each of my ensembles I've worked with, I've taken something away. Like I bring something, I bring
Sure.
myself to that, but I take something away with it. What has your experience with different bands brought to you that you've taken away over the years?
All right. So the band I'm talking about, I was very, very hungry in that band, right? Like just like pushing the band all the time, and I was like, "You gotta lose weight," or like just I was actually crazy about it. I was like, "We all have to be in looking shape," and like you know, like these the clothes. I was very into like making that like a thing, right? And none of that felt real in retrospect. It all just felt like this is what people want. Maybe I should give them that. And so when that band ended the way it did, I was like, let me just be myself and not try to do anything that has anything to do with what worked up to that point for other people, because I'm not those people. Um, so the first band taught me not to like think of it in terms of that would like seem very superficial or weird, you know? So in Lake Cambrian, I guess I've learned how to work with other people better. A lot of the ideas in that band are like I have like a musical idea, and then the drummer and the bass player would work it out, and we would put it together. I wouldn't write their parts or anything like that. So it's good for collaboration being in a band, I think.
It's all about collaboration, right? It's all
Yeah,
about finding
yeah,
that path where you can meld your styles together and come up with some magic. I mean, because
yeah.
a fine artist, even alone, sometimes takes another great artist to kind of inspire them and make it work.
I agree. It's hard. It's hard to say. Like learning is like a. I find like being in a band to be like not the destination but the journey at this point. I guess that's what I've learned. And if you're enjoying it the whole time, and when you're making the music, it's fun. And when you listen back, if you're proud of it, and if people are responding to it, then it's that whole journey of getting there. That was the band. There's no like being signed at the end or having this certain thing at the end that means oh now it's made it. Like the whole time it was good. So just try to enjoy the journey of music because you know it has to be like you're doing it because you started because you love it. I hope you know. So
Otherwise, I
yeah,
was told by a famous conductor I was assistant conductor for.
yeah.
He said, if you can see yourself doing anything else, do that.
That's
And
so interesting.
and it's so true. And I was a young kid at the time. I was in my 20s, and I thought back, and I'm like, what a crazy thing to say. Where I'm a professional musician, and now I'm like,
Yeah,
I tell my students the same thing. It's a very tough way to make a living. Being a
yeah,
musician's never an easy path. Being an artist, and you have to you have to really want it, and you have to work
yeah,
incredibly hard to achieve those goals.
yeah. And it's I don't know. What do you do in an orchestra? Like what was your role when you were doing? I'm just curious. as you were doing it?
In my training, I was
Yeah.
I started as a viola player and piano player, and
That's awesome. Wow.
I went to school for singing. I learned opera and classical, but then I made this shift to conducting, and you take everything with you, and you have to learn psychology, and you have to learn every instrument of the orchestra, how they all work together, and you've got to work on. You have to know the music so well. Most of my time, I tell everyone it's like conducting is like an iceberg, right? You see the top of the iceberg, it's only a very small percentage of the iceberg. Most of what I do is study music till 3 a.m. until I know Beethoven. I know why
Yeah.
Beethoven wrote that chord. Why is the phrase structure that way? I need to make those decisions
so
in
hard.
advance, and I need to have an opinion on everything.
Yeah, that's got to be. I mean, it's not just, it's so many instruments and so many parts and themes and stuff. If you don't know it, then I guess you're not.
And the fun part, the reason
yeah.
I do it is because I love to study the music. It's not
Yeah.
because I love to wave
But
my
there you
arms
go.
around.
Yeah.
And it's because if it was, you can make a lot more money doing other things, really. But if you love what you do, it's not so much work. It's it's a passion.
Sometimes it's like if you're gonna follow your passion as an artist, a musician, you kind of have to at least for me, in my mind, you give up a few other creature comforts sometimes, like a little bit of I don't know, the basic things that like someone with a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday job might be able to just enjoy in a certain way. Like your life is like built around your art, so it's like a different thing. I don't know. I don't
different
sit, I don't
blueprint.
sit down at a dinner table with people. It's just I haven't done that in like a long time. It's always like I'm eating in front of the computer while I'm editing. Like I don't know. It's like a different. You know what I mean? It's a different.
I
It's
do.
interesting.
It's that different blueprint because I'm most of the time I'm up till 3 a.m. studying scores
Exactly.
or
Yeah.
preparing budgets or working on whatever I'm doing because I've got deadlines and then I'm guest conducting and I used to travel a lot, but these days all the travel I've started the podcast as kind of a substitute for a lot of that guest conducting. But it's just amazing to it all makes it worth it when you get on the stage and you actually get to make something come alive for an audience.
It is kind of magic. There's a show I did. I produced a record by an artist named Tracy Bonham. She had a song called Mother Mother back
Oh,
in
sure.
yeah. So for the 20th anniversary of that record, I produced a re-record with her where 7 other female artists sang all her songs and stuff and all this.
Neat.
And it was like this big process of like writing back and forth and trying to get them to send these songs. And it had the singer from the New Pornographers. It had Sadie from Speedy Ortiz, and had a whole bunch of like musicians. And Throwing Muses, Belly, like that singer was on it. And when it was all done, it was just all this like putting together. We finally put it on stage, and that's when it felt like I was like, I can't believe stuff that I produced is like actually being played by people right now. So it felt very special to do that.
A lot of those things take so long, to so many
so
hours
long.
of construction, and to watch it come alive is alchemy. It's
Yeah, it
magic.
was like a full year of just every day. Very complicated.
That's that journey we all take. So tell me about the name Late Cambrian. I've done my research. It's an
What is it?
epoch of geological time about, I am a college professor, so I'm nerdy, but 55 million years from 541 million years ago to about 485, and it's the explosion of the earliest multicellular life.
That's why I named it that because I wanted the project to feel like, to make you think of like organic creation, like an empty planet and then suddenly like teeming with life. So
It's a lot more catchy than trilobites. So
yeah, I know. Or what the Late Cambrian period was renamed the Ferungian. I was like, no, that's and since
sounds like
yeah,
a church mode from the 1100s.
sounds like an STD. But Late Cambrian definitely, like after that period was renamed, I was like, well, now it's definitely mine because no one can, they changed it. But I just like the idea of organic creation coming out of nowhere and like all this stuff coming out because had so much material that I wasn't able to put in the band before it. That I wanted to like be able to just give myself to and like work it out and make it into music. So
Your music has a very organic feel, like you're saying, and it has a lot of influences from that I've heard in the past, but kind of imagined and kind of mixed in a different way. So how did you come up with your sound, and how has it evolved? And when did you start Lake Cambrian?
started Lake Cambrian in 2010, but the first it was like right after the other band broke up, like in like say October or November of 2010. Started recording and put it out in 2011. The first record had a small it got signed to a Japanese label, and so it was actually put out in Japan, which is really fun. I have all these pictures of it at like HMVs and Tower Records at the listening station and stuff.
That's fantastic.
Remember listening stations?
Ah,
Remember
yes.
the Virgin Megastore? Oh my God! But
That was a
anyway,
thing.
yeah, it was like now I just can't imagine people during a pandemic like sharing headphones, like But like at the time, it just made sense. You would just go in and put on headphones, and listen to like go through the tracks. So the first record was like that, sold like around 1,000 copies in Japan. It kind of pushed me to keep going with it. It started as a solo project. So, and then the sound kept evolving. I think the first record I was kind of really into Weezer's second record, Pinkerton, like the one that I was like, it was really like I was really into the idea that it was recorded without a click and that like the guitars kept feeding back and some of the vocals were out of tune. I was like, I like this a lot.
It's got a
For like
grittiness to it that's really
for like a
tangible.
band that's the opposite of gritty to suddenly have an album that sounds like they did it in one take, I was like into that. So I kind of approached the first record with that ethos, no click, and just let things kind of go where they're gonna go on their own a little bit, like reins on like a wild horse. That's what I was trying to like approach it, like I was like trying to control this thing that really wasn't in my control, which is kind of like my philosophy about life. Like life is like a wild horse. So and then it just the sound just evolved as I discovered more sounds and bought more guitar pedals, and the more things you have at your disposal, the more you kind of like want to see what you can stretch about what music can sound like.
What are some of the specific guitar effects you use? I know I saw the on Instagram you had like a picture of some of your favorite pedals. I'm like, oh, I saw the fuzz box and some of these great pedals. What are some of your favorites?
I have right now. I just bought this pedal, which is like this is brand new. You can't see it because I have to reverse my screen, but it's the Electro Harmonics ripped speaker, and this knob up here, I think, turns the voltage down. So it's a 9-volt pedal, but as a distortion starts to sound really like Velcro-y and like it's falling apart as you remove the voltage, turn it down to like 7 volts. So that's kind of like I like the sound of a guitar that sounds like it's breaking a little bit.
Were you ever inspired by Eddie Van Halen and some of his guitar experiments?
I mean, he's incredible, and he kind of makes me wish that I learned piano first, because I know he was a piano player first, and that's how
Very
he came up with
successful
tapping.
piano player. Yep.
Yeah, and I don't know if I really like his playing. I was never into the kind of party aspect of rock. There's that period in the '80s where it just seemed to be about, nothing but a good time, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It kind of feels a little cavalier and privileged to me. I don't know, like nothing but a good time. Is it though? Like, didn't you just come from the STD doctor? I'm not mad about it. I just mean that I like Van Halen's musicianship. They're really good.
Personally, I mean, even above the music, I watched this great documentary on how he created his sound, and he couldn't afford the expensive effects processor because
I'm fascinated by this.
his family was dirt poor when they came over from he's Dutch, and they came over and they had no work. His father was a janitor, so he got his first guitar and he started taking them apart and putting them back together again because he was looking for this sound, and he had to play both the lead and the rhythm, because he wanted to do both.
Yeah.
So he learned how to do that both. So he would come up with these different techniques, some of those things he became famous for. And he would take all the instruments, he would put these pickups with those pickups. And if it wasn't until he was using European voltage, which is lower voltage, and then cranking it to 11. He liked the sound of 11, but he found out that when he changed the voltage, and he talks about it on a couple different places, but I was fascinated to how he came up with that unique signature sound.
That's very Spinal Tap. He goes to 11. I love it.
That's where they got it from, yeah.
That's really cool.
Because he did. He went to 11 on everything. Because my neighbors wanted to kill me, so they called the police every day. So we had to figure out a way to get that sound without the extreme volume.
Yeah, he was on another level, playing-wise. He always was. He was like the beginning of that whole, like, Steve Vai kind of, Joe Satriani kind of, like, where it's about the guitar player specifically. Like, it's even named after the guitar player. It's not called David Lee Roth. you know, like so, and it really makes sense, you know, like Yngwie Malmsteen, like it's about him, it's about the playing, you know.
It's interesting
I
how, like,
appreciate that.
I grew up in that era, so I grew.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
My older brothers were Van Halen fans, and I kind of grew into it by listening to them. But something about his playing transcends a lot of that flashy tapping. Like, it's more organic. He does it, but he does it at another level where it's like
Yeah.
it's not just an effect for an effect's sake. It's actually organic and beautiful. That he like invented. He didn't invent it, but he kind of was such an innovator that his style is. A lot of people just copy that, and it
The
becomes
first time
like
I heard him was on Beat It.
that he killed that solo.
That solo is amazing. And the
He
riff,
did it in one take, and he was
Dude.
hungover. He walked in there,
Yeah.
I think one take, just picked it up,
I don't
cigarette,
know how, that's
cigarette in mouth, did that, and walked away.
but it's incredible.
Yeah,
And you know, and whatever you think of Michael Jackson, he's a perfectionist. I don't think he would have put it on there if it wasn't perfect.
no, he's.
It's perfect.
And I listened. I saw a great interview with the rhythm guitar player who played along with him, and he was like, he just mouth dropped. He watched him play that, and he's like, "Whoa!"
Incredible.
A great studio artist in his own right. He's just sitting there like, "Wow."
I have to say, I do also respect that. Like this, like on 1984, I think he plays the solos on the rhythm track, so it's like it's not like they overdubbed it later or anything. So like when the song stops for the solo, it's just bass and drums. I think that's really cool. It sounds really cool. It's like it sounds like you took it from the top to the bottom. It's not like the rhythm continues and then there's a solo over it, which is also fine. But it's like I like hearing Eddie just kind of go top to bottom as like one take. It feels very organic.
So so how is your songwriting grown as you've done more albums, as you experiment more? Obviously, you're picking up these. One last story about pedals. I just love this.
I'm excited.
The original '60s distortion. They razor bladed their speakers.
I mean that makes sense. That sounds like something Pete Townsend would do actually. Is that
Just
like
razor bladed the
yeah.
speakers. Steppenwolf used to do that. Razor blade, razor blade.
Yeah, exactly. Hence,
That's
this is
so
called-
rock and roll.
That's why this is called a ripped speaker. This is the
I
pedal.
love it.
Like they're supposed to sound like early fuzz. Like I think wasn't that the story about Paranoid's guitar solo that the speaker was ripped?
I think so. I think it
I
was.
heard that solo sounds crazy.
They were probably on tour with each other. And they're like, And I had a friend who was one of the first generations of pyrotechnics. I worked with him in the opera field. We were doing operas together, and he's like, we were just we were just blowing shit up and seeing what happened.
I mean that's you know what it's like you know music or art is alchemy to me too. Like if you're just following a template, if someone's like here's your rock and roll book, these are the chords, like it's not as much fun as trying to see what happens if you dip your guitar pedal in water and then plug it in, see what happens to your don't do that. No
Probably
one
not
do
a good
that.
idea, but
Don't do it.
maybe.
There is a new guitar pedal. I forget the name of the brand. I'm gonna remember. Rainiger Effects has a guitar pedal now where there's a little bottle and you fill it with different liquids and stick it in the guitar pedal, and it sends your guitar signal through whatever's in that little bottle. And people are putting like orange juice in it and like soda, and it makes the guitar
Vodka.
sound- Yeah, exactly. Like put vodka in it. They're like, this sounds like Keith Richards, you know. But yeah, it's that's what it's like about finding new stuff. I just bought this new guitar pedal. They're only making 1,000 of these, but look at how complicated it is. It's called the Bliss Factory. Two manufacturers got together and put two of their pedals in one pedal, and there's all these dip switches to change little things. Like pedals have gotten so complicated. I haven't even dug into this yet, but I'm excited to.
Well, it's always exciting to experiment and to come up with something new. And so what experiments are you working on these days?
So with now that the pandemic's been really good for songwriting for Lake Cambrian. I think like since April we've put out like five or six new songs, and they all sound much different than the earlier stuff. They sound like It's Just Me. Sounds like I might have been like listening to ELO for the entire lockdown. I guess I'm discovering new chords, and the older stuff doesn't have as much acoustic on it. So like when you write on the acoustic, it kind of like it changes your approach to like dynamics too, because sometimes like once you turn on the distortion, the dynamic pretty much levels out because there's like you're hitting a square wall, you know. So acoustic, you can like lean in, you can you pick harder and for more drama and stuff. So it's changing things a little bit for how I approach songwriting. And I'm adding weird notes to the chords that I normally didn't before. Like a cleaner sound helps you like be like, oh, what if I put a flat 13 in this chord? Oh wow, okay.
Have you studied jazz? Because that's that part of your vocabulary, your harmonic vocabulary?
Not I tried learning about modes and like Dorian and Phrygian and stuff, and I kind of basically I know them, but I don't understand how they apply as much as I should. So I can't just play one of those modes over a regular song and feel like it makes any sense. So I'm still learning how that works, but I guess I'm like aware of it. I'm aware of jazz.
Well, it's good to borrow. Even like groups like Pink Floyd would borrow some of the great jazz chords, and I think that cross pollination is really special because every once in a while I'll hear like a simple 2-5 2-5 2-5, and then a magic chord just kind of pops in there, and I'm like, ooh.
Steely Dan does that a little bit.
Yeah,
for sure. That's what I also consider to be alchemy, like taking what would maybe be a basic 1-5-6-4 chord structure and making one chord a ninth and one a seventh, and then like putting a major lift as the sixth chord instead of minor. That's what happens in the song you just played. And rather be to blame, it goes major, even though that's a minor chord. Like it changes to a major halfway through. Stuff like that. I'm just experimenting with how you feel when you hear those changes. It's like a feeling.
Yeah, sometimes we call them borrowed chords, like a minor 4, something like that. Like you take a simple major crash and add a minor 4, and it's creepy and it's interesting and it just draws your attention to an otherwise very standard progression. It's still 1-4-5, but that minor 4 just.
But the minor 4 it adds like an emotional, almost haunted house component to it. Like it's like Radiohead, like this really certain kind of like boding, ominous feeling. The minor 4. You're totally right. Minor 4 is my favorite chord of the pandemic. I think 3.
Sponsored by the minor 4.
Yeah, this pandemic has been sponsored by the minor 4th. Yeah, 4 of the 5 songs have a minor 4th in it. So I think it's funny that you brought that up. You might have heard it when you were listening.
I did.
Okay.
I really enjoyed that.
Okay, it's a minor 4th it's an F to an F minor, but it's the 4th chord. But then I also add a B, so it's a minor 4 flat 5. So let me see something. Okay, so I'm not gonna bring it out, but
awesome, play it.
So there's so in the so it's like so it's like a minor and then that note. It just adds an extra little drama to it. That's like a major note in a minor scale kind of thing. I don't know.
I love it. It just adds. It gives it so much more. It gives a profoundness to that song, which has got. It gives it a real kind of like nostalgia or a little bit of sadness, a twinge of sadness in there too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's like the sadness already exists in the chord progression before I start singing. So I've already it's like half the battle is won before I say anything.
So for you, do the words or the music come first, or does it depend on the song?
The words come out when I'm playing the chords.
Huh.
I don't really have words. Sometimes I'm just like, I have like the music for like weeks and I'm saying, I don't know what to say. And then I have to play it and just keep playing it and let the chords affect me. And then maybe I'll get a phrase out of it. Like we were in the pandemic when I wrote that song. And I think the first line that I wrote was, don't worry about my health. It's just me dying. It was just really about like, don't worry. So like everything is now locked down. You have a complete. I felt like anyone who wasn't happy with how things were going in their life had a chance to reinvent themselves. Like I'm like, now we're coming out of the pandemic. I feel like Tom Hanks at the end of Castaway.
That's a good analogy, Wilson.
Yeah, so I'm home and I'm just like, let me put everything in the car and drive away from FedEx. Not FedEx itself, but like his whole thing was about keeping everything on time and making sure all the packages were delivered on time. And by the end of that movie, he's stabbing fish and he's got a beard. And then when he goes home, it's just like, I can't do this anymore. Like he was living, I guess, Thoreau's kind of like in the forest, living intentionally or whatever. So the pandemic has done that, not to me, but I feel like it has that feeling of like, when we get out of this, people who didn't like how things were set up for themselves up to that point could just make a right turn if they want to. Because everything got knocked down anyway, so build something else if you want to. There's no pressure to do that.
So let's talk about the changes in the music business. I mean,
Yeah.
it's you've been through been in music for a while now as a professional artist. How
Yeah.
has the music business changed? And I'm seeing such an incredible level of indie bands all over. You're in
Yeah.
Brooklyn. Brooklyn has an incredible renaissance of indie bands. What's what's
Yeah.
fueling that, and how has the industry changed?
What's fueling that? You mean like since the pandemic or just in general in
Just in
Brooklyn?
general.
Yeah. I feel like city centers, like New York is, I love New York. It's like my favorite city. But it's like weirdly, like you can feel completely alone amongst 8 million people in New York, which is really strange. Not that you can't feel alone in the suburbs. I'm sure people, I always, in my mind, I'm always like, if I lived in the suburbs and I got in a fight with my neighbor, I have to see that guy the rest of my life. Like, in New York, you can just like move a block away and they won't find you. Like, it's there's so many people here. Like, there's more people on my block than in Northport. You know what I mean?
Who was the
Um,
comedian? He's like it was something about he was talking about that everyone knows each other in the sitcoms. He goes, "I've got neighbors I've never seen before."
that's what I mean. Yeah, yeah. My, what am I gonna say? I guess the city. There's so much going on and so much to draw on here that you just kind of have to take a walk for a week and you'll find 3 or 4 things to write about.
Hmm.
You know, um, but it's going to be different than if you lived in a different kind of place. So I find New York and Brooklyn to be really like rich for getting exposed to a lot of different types of lives and cultures and like ways of feeling about things. And it helps you understand people who don't look or act or sound or speak like you too. Like you're just living with them. We're all just kind of scrounging for stuff that we want and trying to live a life that doesn't make us depressed. So New York points that out to you. It's in your face all the time. Like during the earth, there was an earthquake when I lived here, and I went out. Hadn't met my neighbors at that point, and then I went outside because I was like, "Is the house shaking? I need to go outside and see what's going on."
When was
And
this?
and then I met. I don't know. It was a couple of years ago. I've been living here in Brooklyn for 10 years in Bushwick, and then I met my neighbors because we were all standing outside, and I was like, "That was crazy. Did you feel that? But like you might not meet them even though they live 10 feet away from you, literally in the next house. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting how humans live, and
It's a great source of
inspires me.
stand-up comedy, and it's also a great source of
Yeah,
musical inspiration too.
yeah, totally. It's like you're learning the longer you live, hopefully you learn to like people more because you can learn to like people less as you go and slowly like be like, "Oh, I hate everyone." By the time you get to the end, you're like, "Oh my God, everyone leave me alone." But I'm just learning, not that I needed to, but it feels good to meet so many different types of people who they're not out to harm you. They're just out to live the life that makes them feel comfortable. So
I find it fascinating that back in the old days, the only way to get your music out there was to get a record label. That record promotes you, puts it out
yeah,
there. But today we have such an incredible way of distributing music, of social media to help spread the word. How is
yeah.
that? How do you use that effectively, and how has that changed the industry? Just the fact that everyone can freely release their music.
It's impacted me positively, I think. I'm trying to picture a world without social media right now. I'm drawing a blank. But as far as like, you saw the video of me playing bass to one of the songs, and it's like that's a great way. People are like, "Oh, I know that guy," or "Look, he's playing bass." He's, like I want to say something about that, and then like, "What's this song he's playing to?" And then like,
Look,
it's
he's a
like
duck.
yeah, he's a duck. It's like you're advertising your stuff by advertising something else, by advertising yourself. You're not saying, "Hey, this is my music." You're kind of saying, "This is my personality. This is my humanity." And then people like come to you for that first, and then they're like, "I like the song," you know. Instead of just like pushing the band. I always say that like a human connection will help people understand what you're saying. Like even when you watch the Olympics, you're not just watching a bunch of people throw rocks as far as they can. They show the guy jogging in his town first, and then they show someone like waving to him, and like his family's like, "We're very proud of him for the way he throws rocks." And like you have to like understand that person first, and like get a sense that that we all have like a similar thing where there's a thing we're striving for, and we're going for it, and like So like that's what social media is good for. It builds a story of humanity and like the common struggle and the common like feeling that we're all kind of doing similar things. And then if you like the way you present yourself, then they'll go and look at the music too. Um, but like when people just post a picture and go, "This is my music," and don't say anything and don't say hi, it's like you're gonna get less people looking at it because it just seems like you're a relentless self-promoter without a soul. You have to kind of show with social media, you kind of have to show who you are on a personal level, which is very hard for some people. If you're an introvert or you're not comfortable showing yourself, it's a lot of pressure to like put your face on camera. I have a hard time talking. Like I've been looking at your picture, but like I could look right at the camera. It's not easy for everyone to just do it that way, where they can talk about themselves into the camera. So,
It does take it takes a getting used to, certainly.
yeah.
So I'm looking on Spotify, your list on Spotify. Your top song has 40,000 listens. What is it like to know that your pieces are getting out there and making an impact on the world?
It feels like I've let my kids out into the world and they got a successful job. That's what it feels like. Like I don't feel like I own that song. I feel like that's Golden Time. That's the most listened to song, and it's always at the top. It's made it onto like. Whenever I check the stats on that song, it's on like 300 playlists on Spotify. Like it's all over the place. Just little playlists. People personally saying like jogging, or workout playlist. You know, it's very like it's got like a heartbeat feel to it. You can do stuff to it. It's just it's interesting. I almost look at it like sociologically. I'm like interested when I put a song out. I'm like I wonder if this is gonna hit the zeitgeist at all. Will this resonate with people? And that one resonated, and I listened to it and I go, I have no idea how this is better than any other song that didn't. So I don't know if it accidentally got found or if it's just like something about the feeling and what I said like
Just clicked.
Just clicks with people.
Yeah,
So
I have to go
it's out of my
through
control.
with any artist. I have to go through.
Yeah.
I have to go through their. I look at their top songs, but their top 5 songs, just kind of give it a start there. Yeah. But I find that most of the stuff I like the best is not the top 5 songs. It's the deeper cuts.
Me too. I'm always supporting the middle child, and they never get no one gives them attention. It's totally true. There's songs on there that I like so much better than the ones people like. I think of a quote. Eminem said, "I knew that my first song, my name is." He was like, "I knew it was gonna be famous because I hate it. Every time I hear it, I get mad. Like like it's like the thing that's gonna be the most popular might be the thing that the artist doesn't like as much."
We have our first question from the audience, and this is
Okay.
Eva, who asks. She really likes the song "Golden Time," and
Thank you, Eva.
what's the backstory? What's that song about, or what was the inspiration for that song?
Before we name this song, so remember when I said that me and Olive met on Nurse Jackie? We were playing patients. We were going to be patients in the hospital. Oh man, if you saw the picture of me with the gown and the fake cast, it's really stupid. So anyway, there's a thing when you're doing that kind of background work on called Golden Time. When you hit 16 hours in a row of filming, this is legal by the way, to work for 16 hours. You hit something called Golden Time, where you get the entire day's pay per hour.
Nice.
So we hit like when you're like on set and it's like 14 hours in, 15 hours, you're like, "Oh, we gonna hit 16?" Like, because if you hit 16, you get everything you just made again.
Cha-ching.
Every hour. So Golden Time it started as just like a song about like doing something long enough until you hit Golden Time, which is like the time when everything you did paid off. So I guess that's where it came from. Just kind of like it spun from being on set a lot.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
Did you do a lot of that super work and that extra work?
I did for there was like 2 years where I auditioned for a commercial for Vonage, which is like an online phone company, and I got it. It was my first audition ever as an actor, and I did this like commercial where I was talking about how I use Vonage and stuff. I didn't, but don't tell anyone that I bought Vonage the day before in order to do the commercial. Don't forget it. It's out. It's been 5 years. I hope they don't care. Don't watch this commercial, Vonage. Anyway, that made me. I was like, oh, let me stay in the industry a little and kind of do like background work and meet people on sets and stuff while I'm doing music. It'll be a good way to supplement the income. And I ended up doing a film score because of people I met on set. So you never know what's gonna, say yes to the opportunities that randomly fall in your lap sometimes if they don't feel like they're gonna put you out. And So that, I guess that song's about doing something long enough that it pays off.
I tell my undergraduates, give yourself the broadest skill set possible. You have no idea where that journey is going to take you when you start walking on the road.
It's true. I secretly run another Instagram that's really trashy and stupid that has to do with 90 Day Fiance, and it's really popular. And I said to myself, I was like, if you dig in and spend 15 years like learning your craft and trade and learning music and everything, one day you will get famous like for a really crappy website that you put no time into. Life is very strange the way things turn out. Like you'll do one thing, but if you can do other things too, it's like just put the forges in the fire and see which one like you can mold into something that you like.
Great advice. We have
Yeah.
another question from the audience. This is from Ivy, and she asked, John, what's your favorite LC song to date?
Ooh, I kind of like Pareidolia. That's a song I wrote this. I started writing it before the pandemic, but it was about like I was thinking of the movie I Am Legend.
Great movie.
Remember I Am Legend, right?
Absolutely.
The only thing I don't like about it is the CGI vampires weren't up to snuff. I wish they looked a little better. They kind of all look gray. But the
CGI dates itself. My son studies film, so
Yeah.
CGI can be very dated very fast.
very fast. But it's amazing how bad those zombies look compared to how good the dinosaurs look in Jurassic Park like 5-6 years earlier. It's really all about who the artist is and how much time they put into it too. But like, I guess it's my favorite song. First of all, Olive sings it. She sings lead on it. And it was about pareidolia is what happens like when you look at an inanimate object and see a face. That's what pareidolia is. So like if you look at like a car and you see like the headlights and the grill and like your brain like makes it into like, oh, that car's happy. That's called a pareidolia. So I wrote it thinking about I Am Legend and how he was putting mannequins around to feel like he wasn't alone. And then the pandemic hit and I was like, this song makes even more sense now because we're all like, I had this like thought in my head of people like kind of like creating company that they don't have. I don't know. So that's my favorite song. It's like, it's the weird, it just showed up right before the pandemic. So I was like, I felt like I predicted it.
So how did having a songwriting partner in Olive, how did that affect your music and how did that change the music you're writing?
It made it better. Before Olive's approach to music is very like, it's like kind of like what I had to learn how to be, like a little more flowing, a little less technical, a little less about like learning what chords I'm using and stuff, and more about like finding the feeling in the chords. So Olive being in the band's been very helpful for looking for the emotion in the music, instead of just being like, these chords are really cool. Not that I'm always looking for something, but sometimes it's more like to please myself, like, oh, this is cool. People are gonna like this weird, odd, time change or whatever. And like, she would always tell me like, I don't like this song. I'm like, you're making this hard. But in the end, she's usually right because it's more like she's hearing it for the first time objectively. So it's like, it helps me like realize what was good or bad about the song. It's a good bouncing off point.
And how does a song change from conception until execution and the studio phase and the editing phase? How do you see your songs change? And what's it like to listen to the final product the first time?
They usually they just show up like in like pieces. Like I guess I'll have like, I don't feel like the song's done until it's like completely like mixed and mastered. It's always changing. Even like the last second, I'll send something to the mastering engineer. He'll send it back. And I'll be like, I'm sorry to do this. I need to lower the bass. And I'll have to like mix it again. Even though I just paid to master it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still like tinkering all the way at the end. It's all like fine. It goes from macro to micro for me. Like the overall big song. And then by the end, I'm like in there going, I think that hi-hat should have been closed at 3 minutes and 22 seconds. What do I do about it? These weird things that only I care about by the end.
But they're important.
So,
every little detail is
really,
your expression. It's your viewpoint of your own art. It's very important.
Yeah, it's just like I try not to. I have like a tendency to be OCD about music a little bit, like, and I think that comes from like people don't want to put something out that they think someone else is going to say they're less of a musician or less good because of it. So you start tinkering and making sure things are perfect. But then all the music I listen to is not perfect. I love Tom Waits. It's not perfect. it's just amazing.
It's raw.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just, even if it wasn't raw, even if they played it 100 times, the final product in the studio feels very like it happened once. So like, how do you do that where you're happy with something that sounds like it only happened once? That's always been my challenge. I
It's
know,
funny.
yeah,
It takes so much time to do that once, and so much
yeah.
work and refinement. But it's that kind of overall ethos that you're looking for is very. And your
The
music
police were
has.
really good at that.
Oh yeah, the music is so
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Like it's actually looser than it feels. Like when you listen to it, you're like, this is some tight stuff, and then when you really dig in, you're like, oh, that was very like, blah, like very experimental. Like Andy Summers' guitar playing is like wild, like
I saw their reunion tour.
Chase
Must,
Stadium.
yeah, I saw it. It was at the PNC Bank Arts Center, same place
Oh
you saw
wow,
the
okay.
Rush. And they hadn't been together in 10 years, 15
Yeah,
years. They came together, and it was like, wow, magic. Those guys are such good musicians.
I
Every
saw
one
I
of them.
saw that too. I saw it at Chase Stadium. They opened with Synchronicity too. I was so excited. It's like that's like my favorite song on that record. So
They knocked it out of the park. It was
yeah,
just,
it's so good.
each of them is such a great artist.
Did you see was Stuart Copeland playing that weird thing of hanging mirrors for like wrapped around my finger? It was like doing these
I
weird
sat so
things.
far away, I wouldn't have seen it.
He was like hitting things. He got up from the drums and was like playing some weird thing, and I was like, this reminds me of King Crimson.
So interesting how Sting and Stuart Copeland like just despised each other. I mean,
Yeah,
isn't that
they were
interesting?
they were getting fist fights.
Like he would like put nasty things on the bass amp before the show. I mean, you guys are making millions of dollars. Can't you figure it out?
Gotta figure, and then, and I was hoping for a new Police record when that reunion happened, or at least an EP.
They quit at the
mean-
top of their game. That's a kind of an amazing thing.
It's true. It's not like the last record's the worst record. Everything gets better and better as it goes. Personally, I'm a Ghost in the Machine guy. I really like Spirits in the Material World. That groove is so strange, and like Invisible Sun, like the really weird dark stuff.
Dark, yeah.
Yeah,
Me
about,
too.
like,
I'm
yeah.
the same. I like the dark kind of introspective pieces. And
Yeah.
Sting's
Dark-
voice is such a unique. I like it sometimes better there than a lot of his solo pieces. I like his solo pieces too, just as much. But the Police had this special alchemy and this magic with the three of those people.
Well, and that's the thing. Like when you're in a band, you learn how to work with other people, or you just have fistfights and you quit. I remember and I'm a big Strokes fan. After their third record, I think they like broke up for a little bit, and then like when the fourth record came out, they asked Julian Casablancas like what the ethos of the album was, and I think he was like, this album is the everyone gets their song album, and I didn't know that up to that point that he had written everything. Like he was like, I just thought he was a singer, but apparently like most of the compositions was all him. And it took them like 4 albums to like be able to like write together and not feel like mad that someone had an idea, or it's very weird when you put like people in a room, and there's a lot of personalities that can clash. I'm with you on Sting and Stuart Copeland. Why just take a Ritalin and chill out. I don't why is it got to be what it was, but
You hear that with a lot of the you
Yeah.
watch the behind the musics and those type of about documentaries. I love to hear like because I've seen these bands, I've heard them, I grew up with them, but to hear how the interaction with the artists is very interesting to me.
really interesting. And you've only heard like a fraction of it. I'm
Oh,
sure
the
it was,
tip
like,
of the
a
iceberg.
million
They
more
keep a
things
lot of
happening
it
that we
secret,
didn't
I'm
know
sure.
about. Yeah.
So what's next for you after COVID ends and we get back to live music? What's something you look forward to that's going to be the start of the next chapter?
For music, we haven't played any of the new stuff live except yesterday. There's a thing called Creative Mornings, which is a really cool program that happens. Maybe it's once a week, but it's in the morning before people go to work. They had an open mic yesterday, so me and Olive played that song. It's Just Me live, and it felt really good to play live. It was for like 200 people, and you get to see all the comments as you're playing.
Fantastic.
It was really cool. That's what I like about the internet too. Like I was able to reach 200 people from my house. That's pretty funny. Apartment, sorry, I don't own a house. From my apartment. Yeah, it was. Maybe live music will come back to New York. I got out of the train at Bowery and I saw the Bowery Ballroom was open like 2 days ago for like they're doing some kind of like musical called Scam-A-Lot about like scammy kind of griftery type people. But I was like, Bowery Ballroom's still open? Okay, good. I thought some of these venues were closed for good. I really did. So maybe there'll be live music soon again in New York. I mean,
Well, one thing we
such
learned
a
about humans is that after major, I've spoken to musicologists, I've spoken to people far
yeah,
smarter than me, and I've said, how have we dealt with this in the past? And we pretty much World War II, the Holocaust. I mean, there's an
yeah.
outpouring of great music because people have all this emotion that they inside that has to come out.
And wasn't able to. I mean, I can still make music this all the time, but back then, no one's at home with their 16 track during World War II. You know,
Have you always
I
had
don't
an
know how
interest
you would
in?
record back then unless you were signed. I have no idea how you would make music back then if you weren't like someone wasn't doing it for you.
Have you always been interested in recording engineering and in all the editing of the process? Is that something new?
I've been interested in it. Like I like the freedom of being able to record as soon as an idea shows up. You know, because otherwise you would just be kind of like making little demos of yourself at home. But like, what if you can't catch that again? What if the demo is better than the real recording? You know, so it's like it feels good to be able to just hit record and go into it right away, and it feels good to just be like, nah, it doesn't sound good, and just delete the whole thing. Like, I have kind of a problem where I can like work on a song for like a couple of days, and if it's not going where I want it to, I'll just delete the file. It's terrible. It's really bad. I know I should just keep it and like go back later and look at it, but I'm just like, I don't want this thing to lead me down a blind alley where I'm putting all my brain power and emotion into something that's just, I'm like, I'm like trying to animate a corpse and it's just like keeps falling down. Like I want to be able to like get it.
A lot of the great artists did similar things. You know, Johannes Brahms burned all of his pre-published music because he wanted
Oh
no
my
one to see
God.
it. And we're all like, what?
And back then, that means no one's hearing it. Like
Oh, no, that was the end.
Like, I mean, Drake could burn his music and it's still out. It's gonna be there. Anyone who's made anything now, like it's not in your control anymore. Which is what I meant when I was talking about Golden Time, the song. I feel like it's not in my control anymore. If I decided I don't want that on the internet, I can't get rid of that. I can't see a way where I could remove it from every single site possible. Like someone put it
No,
on.
it's there forever. Once it's on,
Yeah.
once it's in the digital world, it's there
Yeah.
forever. So
Totally.
better behave yourself.
Or not, depending on what it is that you're known for.
If you're going for the shock value.
Yeah. If you're Johnny Knoxville, you can't behave yourself. Depends
That
on
guy.
what. Yeah. Depends on what makes you. It depends on what people know you for, I guess. There's no such thing as bad press unless you're Jeffrey Epstein, maybe. I don't know. There's some bad press, but
Certainly bad press on his side, yeah.
Yeah, but if you're like one of these like, I don't know, if you're like a celebrity, like almost nothing is bad press. When Britney Spears shaved her head, it wasn't really bad press because I wasn't thinking about her until that happened.
I'm still not thinking about her.
Yeah. But did you see the documentary on HBO?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
It's kind of worth it.
Was it good? Okay, I'll check it out then.
It's great, and it's kind of tragic.
I'm a documentary fanatic. We had a filmmaker on yesterday on the show. We had a show yesterday.
Cool.
And
Right.
a big part of my job is working with choral musicians, and they're doing a huge national project. They're documenting the roles of choruses in nurturing the American soul. So it's a huge national project with some of the top people in the industry. Anyway, I'm fascinated with the way that documentary filmmakers tell stories, and they arrange narratives. And they can make a narrative about almost anything and make it compelling.
Yeah, it's true. Sometimes I think about the angle of the documentary, and when I watch it, I'm just wondering whether this person wanted us to feel a certain way about something,
Always.
or whether they wanted us to like form our own opinions.
Okay, I guess it depends on the point of view.
Yeah.
But like My Octopus Teacher, do you see that one on Netflix?
Is it good? They keep showing me
great.
that. So
It's great.
Okay, I'll watch that.
And I was like, what is this? It looks ridiculous. I love nature documentaries, so I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. It's this compelling story that I would
Man.
never have even imagined of.
I love octopuses, so maybe I should watch that. Did you ever see the documentary Bigger, Faster, Stronger about?
No.
Yeah. No. Yes.
Not yet. Not yet.
Oh, see Bigger, Faster, Stronger. It's about steroid use and about it like follows a couple of not professional wrestlers that want to be like WWE.
Oh yeah.
One of them like lives in their van outside the gym. Like, so the whole thing is really, but they don't judge these people. They present it really straight, and then it's not pro or anti steroid use. It's just telling
You make the call. Yeah, that's
what it is that people go through to try to be in certain industries. So it's very flat and very like, you'll form your own opinions, which I really liked about.
This is the first time I've quoted. I was listening to one of the Joe Rogan interviews with The Undertaker, who was a big wrestler when I was a kid, and he had a 30-year career in professional wrestling, which is unheard of. I mean, those guys. He had both of his hips replaced, and he's still actually.
Wow.
He quit. He hung up the tights or whatever after like 30 years. But he explained this guy was incredibly eloquent, and like I had no idea he's a character. He goes, I wasn't a good actor, so they gave me a character who was basically mute. And a big guy.
Well, there you go. That's what people are like. What people are known for.
He started his career.
Press, like,
he went to the office. He went to the WWE offices every day, and he stood it there, and they wouldn't take him, wouldn't even look at him like, "Get out of here, kid." And on the 30th day, though, I looked at him and said, "You know what? I may have something for you."
Wow, that's so crazy.
And I'm like, same applies for music. I heard a very similar story about one of the Allman Brothers who went to who'd sit out every day outside the recording studio until they gave him a crack.
Oh, that's so crazy.
He camped out with his brother.
I heard that Axl Rose found Slash playing guitar on the street outside. Does that sound right to you?
I don't know. I'll look it up.
He was like just sitting and playing, and like he became the guitar player for Guns N' Roses.
I know Slash was his parents were incredibly involved in the television industry.
Interesting. Okay.
His father was a television producer for a major network.
I saw the Undertaker interview on Hot Ones. Did you watch that?
No.
Where he's eating like progressively hotter hot sauce while he's asked questions. That was it posted like last month. You should watch that. It's really good. If you like the Undertaker.
He seemed like an incredibly like eloquent guy. That guy's a hardworking man. Just does his job as best he can to be at the best level. He talks about maintaining that ridiculous character and how his wife would like be in the act with him, and he just seemed like a normal guy, just doing a job. Keeping his body as healthy as he could as he was pounding it. Like killing himself.
Did he have a manager that was named Paul Bearer? Is that the Undertaker?
Yeah, that's him. Yep.
And he would bring out like an urn. That guy. What was in the urn? I don't know anything.
Nothing.
About this
Who cares?
stuff, so.
Ashes, or it was always.
But it wasn't like the ashes of like another wrestler or something.
Oh,
it wasn't like some weird drama. That's really funny. Okay, I know.
It's very similar to Black Sabbath. I love the interview where I heard Ozzy Osbourne's like, we were a bad Led Zeppelin cover band trying to make it sound like blues rock, right? And then they watched Psycho and they're like, hold on, people like being scared.
Yeah, he named the band after the movie playing in the theater across the street from the recording studio because the horror movie Black Sabbath was like playing.
It's just they found their niche in that way, and then they rode it to the top.
They're definitely in my like top 5 bands for like learning guitar. It's very inspiring that he got all his fingers cut off and was still able to make the first record. You know that he was a welder, right? And like he accidentally welded off these 2 fingers.
I knew 2 of them where he was like playing without 2 tops of fingers. That's incredible.
The day he was gonna go in to record, he cut his fingers off, and then like was gonna quit. And then his story is that he was walking, and he heard a guitar player playing on the street, and he was like really excited, like, oh, that sounds really good, and went to look, and it was like a black blues musician who had 2 fingers. And it inspired, he was like, wait, I can't quit. This guy is doing it. And I was like feeling bad for myself. So he like welded himself 2 metal tips. And that's why you can kind of hear like there's a squeakiness to his chords on like Sweet Leaf. It's like down, down.
Wow.
Yeah, so he has metal fingers. He literally has metal in his fingers.
Metal in his blood and metal in his fingers.
Blood, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, they're in my top 5 just for how loose some of those early records are. Like Volume 4 is amazing. So really dark, evil stuff for the time period it came out. Love it.
So, John, what advice do you have for people coming up in the business right now, for younger people? We have a lot of young people listen to the show. What advice do you have for someone just coming into the music business, and what do you have to give?
I think at this point in the world, it's like, just like, do what you love and think a little less about the celebrity of it if you can. I mean, social media makes it hard to do. You kind of have to play. You got to be in the mix there a little bit. Like, I'm like tempted to make a TikTok and have dance videos where I put like Cambrian songs in the back and see if someone will be like, I want to dance to that. It's there in my head all the time, but make the music first. Just enjoy the process of it. Don't make it necessarily for other people. You're not going to make, like, oh, this song's going to be the banger of the summer. Like if you approach it that way, then you're kind of being a business person. You're not being an artist. So I would say just be true to what it is that you want to say specifically, even if only you and your mom like it. Like, just do it for yourself. do it for yourself.
I was telling before the show, I was saying that I really enjoyed your music when I first heard it, and I've dug in.
Thank you.
I played it for my 21-year-old son, who was like, "That's really cool." I played it for my 18-year-old daughter; she liked it. And I played it for my 79-year-old mom, and she liked your song too.
I mean, I guess this is a good thing that I can like all the test markets are hit.
Well, yeah, it's a.
I think maybe it's that song though. I don't know if it's the whole like that song.
Could be.
Feel,
It could be, but you know, it's
yeah,
just
if
interesting
it's
for
just
me
me.
how like as the scholar in me likes to see like what works. You know, what
Yeah,
do
totally.
people what do people enjoy, and different genre, different ages enjoy different things. You know, it's just part of
It's true.
human. Listen to Frank Sinatra versus listen to grunge versus, and different people are going to like the sounds they hear. But it takes a real artist to appeal across the age gap. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you so much. I guess I've always liked songs for what they have to say. Like I like Is That All There Is from Peggy Lee. Is that like weird to like that song? That's a great song.
Not at all.
I heard it first at a play in the city called Sleep No More, where everyone walked around with masks and we were like watched is it in Hamlet or is it Macbeth? Anyway, it's a weird kind of like the McKittrick Hotel has like 6 floors and you walk through it and the actors are doing stuff and one of the actors like lip synced to that and I was like, this is great. Because it felt she's like, is that all there is to a fire? Is that all there is? It kind of inspired It's Just Me, actually, like the existential quality of it. If I feel like something's hitting like what it's like to be human, then I like it.
You approach your music with a real sense of philosophy and purpose and deep, curious intellect. How can people find out more about your work and where can they go to engage with you and your band?
You can talk to me on Instagram. So I guess that would be Instagram /Late Cambrian. Spotify, Apple Music. There's stuff available on Bandcamp. I actually just put a new EP up there of all the new songs, and if you purchase it, you get a bonus track that you can't see. So, but you can always talk to me on Instagram. I run the Instagram. So
cool. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to get to know you, and I can't wait to catch up down the road and to see you live.
Thanks. I hope I can. Yeah, I'm excited for that. I've been thinking about it for a while now. I'm like, when the clubs open up, like, are we gonna have outdoor concerts? That would be interesting. If all these clubs like set up like outdoor stages,
kind of a Renaissance approach to live music. Oh
yeah, I'll be a minstrel, walk around and play the songs. Yeah, totally. Like that would, like I feel like music's gonna move outside a little more this summer. Like if we start having live music again, it might be like backyard barbecues and like bigger, like outdoor venues, in order to keep everyone safe.
It'll definitely be different moving forward. Things are going to change, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, I would say some changes feel inconvenient at the time, and then later you're like, this actually made things better. I remember everyone was really mad when Bloomberg got rid of smoking in bars in New York.
Don't miss it at all.
I was like, I don't want to smell like a dorm room couch when I come home from being outside. Like, I'm totally fine with this. But then also people realized that when you're in a bar and everyone's smoking, you don't really have an excuse to talk to people. But if you're a smoker, you can step out and then it's like this like empty area where it's just you and this one person. So it's up to you to talk about it. And you already have this one thing in common. So it actually ended up being better and not giving the bartenders black yulong or whatever. You know what I mean? Like things that like people were like, I can't believe you would do this. And in the end, it like actually ended up benefiting everyone. So you just got to try to see the long view and see if it makes sense.
Thank you so much for your time, and I can't wait to see your music and what you bring forth and what you write in the future. So keep writing great songs, and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, I'm recording some new stuff right now. Actually, maybe it'll be out soon. With the pandemic like ending, it's like changed where my brain's at. So I want to see what happens.
Well, can't wait to see that next chapter.
Okay. Well, it was great to meet you, and thanks.
Well, can't wait to see you on the stage. Thank you for joining us on Music Matters, and please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube and smash that bell icon. We have another indie band coming tomorrow, a blues band called Happy Curmudgeons. They're going to come on tomorrow, so hope you can join us at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for being here, and remember, keep music alive.
you think, never let you pay for a drink. He's a shifty fool, died in the war, he cannot complete you. Young cats out on the prowl, old dogs tuned to your howl. I wish you knew how I miss you, I will you retweet too. Last night I saw you at the club, no lights, bass hit me with a thud. I tried getting you on